Welcome to the Collective RX, a wellness and personal development podcast for healthcare professionals who are ready to create a fulfilling personal and professional life. I'm your host, Julie Doan, pharmacist and certified life coach. Hey there, and welcome back to the Collective RX podcast. Today, I want to talk about creating your own guidelines for how you live your life. Now, as healthcare professionals, we are no strangers to guidelines. When it comes to treating and caring for our patients, we adhere to them. We follow evidence-based approaches, consensus created by experts in the field, protocols, and overall standardized treatments. And while we do balance that out with patient preferences and personalization of care, there's an overall structure to guide us, which is a good thing because we wouldn't want to try just any random things on our patients. However, when it comes to our personal lives and how we choose to live it, following society's or someone else's guidelines to life isn't as useful. Because let's face it, what makes one person happy won't necessarily make you happy. So why is it that despite this, we've created as a society a standardized checklist for what a quote-unquote good life should look like? And you know what checklist I'm talking about. It's the checklist that says, go get a degree, the high-paying job with benefits and a pension, find yourself a partner, have 2.5 children, drive the latest car, and live in the big home with a manicured garden. Now, there's nothing wrong with this scenario per se. I know many people who have a similar life to this, and they're very satisfied. And there's also other people who have all of this and still have that nagging feeling inside of them that's asking, is this really all there is? And it's not that their life is terrible, but it doesn't quite make them light up either, or not in the way they've expected. And I'm willing to bet that on some level, it's because they're following someone else's expectation of what their life should look like and are not fully tuning into their own desires. Personally, when I look at my own experience, for the first 25 years, I was doing what was expected of me. My parents, having left a politically unstable country, wanted me to have a secure life, which meant having a steady job and, if we're honest, a rich husband that could take care of me. The implicit expectation was to pursue a career either as a doctor, pharmacist, or dentist, marry a doctor from a good family before age 30, and buy a big home where my children can grow up in. And I pursued this definition of success for a long time because I thought it would bring me satisfaction. I was following the path that my parents laid out because, frankly, I never knew I could create my own. No one ever asked me what I truly wanted, so I just followed what I thought I should want. It was only until I realized that the guys I've been dating were perfect for my parents, but so wrong for me, that I started getting curious about what I actually desired in a romantic partner, but also in the other areas of my life. While I did end up becoming a pharmacist and luckily enjoying the profession that was initially picked out by my parents, the rest of my life looks little like what was expected of me. For example, I married a man that my parents initially did not approve of, left my secure full-time position at the hospital with all the benefits, in order to start my own business and work part-time in the relatively new field of telepharmacy. And right now, I have no desire to have children of my own, as I'm already a stepmom to a wonderful teenage boy. And I couldn't be happier. To be clear, I'm not saying that any particular lifestyle is better than the other. There's more than one way to do life and more than one path to be successful and happy. In fact, there's 8 billion ways to do life because there's 8 billion people on Earth. And it will look different for everyone. And also not saying that you need to be radical and reject society norms or your community's guidance just for the sake of being different and being a rebel. However, I am inviting you to review the checklist you may have been following up until now to decide moving forward if there are any items you want to keep on there and which ones you would want to replace. For example, you might realize that many of the ideas that your parents or community passed on to you are things you agree with and that they make your life meaningful. And you may also realize that there's a certain amount of ideas that do not serve you and that you want to adhere to new ones that are more aligned with you. For example, my parents highly value the idea of staying in the same organization until you retire in order to have a large pension. But for me, knowing I'll be in the same place in 10 years bores me to tears because I value expansion and growth over security. In other words, I'm inviting you to rewrite and update your guidelines and blueprint to what a fulfilling life looks like to you. To intentionally choose how you live your life from now on, instead of cruising on autopilot or confining yourself to certain paths because everyone else around you is doing that, or because you're worried about what other people will think of you if you choose differently. Now, you might be hearing this and being like, okay, yeah, that sounds nice, but I'll do this another time. Because like most people, you likely live a full life with many responsibilities. And I can understand how tempting it is to brush this work off. Because let's face it, changing does require effort. And if your life isn't all that bad, you might not feel the need to look at this now. But after having coached people for 4 years inside my health coaching practice, I've come to understand that living a life that isn't in full alignment with your values and how you want to live your life leads to a lot of frustration, stress, burnout, numbing mechanism like overeating, overdrinking, or overspending, and sometimes even physical symptoms. So I strongly urge you to consider what I'm saying here and that you owe it to yourself, to your health, and your happiness to examine your choices and make the required adjustments. And trust me, it really is worth the effort. All right, so that was me selling you the idea of creating your own life guidelines. I'll step off my soapbox for now and tackle the more practical part of this conversation. So you're probably wondering, how does one actually create life guidelines for themselves? How do you actually know what you even want? And what are some practical steps to do this? Well, in the next episode, I'll guide you through an exercise that can help you do this. You'll have the opportunity to identify your core values as well as take an honest look at the different areas of your life. And I know that sounds like big stuff, but don't worry, I'll break it down for you. But until then, what I want to leave you with as I end this episode is that you get to do things differently from now on and choose new paths if that is what you desire. You get to create the manual, the rule book, and the guidelines to how you want to live your life on your own terms. All right, my friend, that is it for now. If you have questions or comments for me about this episode, please send them over to the Collective RX or to Julie Doan Health on Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn. So that is all. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll speak to you soon.